Some stories start right at the finish line, the exact moment a new life is supposed to begin. But for one couple, that new beginning would last just a few minutes. It would end in a fiery blast that tore a family apart and kicked off an investigation where the truth, believe it or not, would come from the most unlikely witness you could ever imagine.
So picture this. It's late on a Saturday night in Bloomington, Illinois. Kurt Simon and his fiancé Chem Winganger have just finished a long 230-mile drive from Iowa. They pull into the driveway of Kim's house, which is now, finally, their house. They're tired, but they're so happy. As Kurt grabs the first box and heads inside, he passes Kim on the stairs. They just exchange a smile. One of those small, perfect moments, just filled with the promise of their whole future together.
Kurt drops off the box and heads back out to the car. But just as he gets to the trunk, this incredible force just hits him from behind. A deafening boom that practically throws him to the ground. He whips around, and all he can see is thick black smoke pouring out of the front door. The home he walked out of literally seconds ago is now just pure chaos. When Detective Larry Shepard gets to the scene, he knows right away this was no accident. The debris blown clear out into the street, the smoke, the frantic fiancé screaming Chem's name, this was a bombing. And when they get inside, they find Chem's body. The investigation starts right then and there, and almost immediately, all eyes turn to the one person who managed to walk away.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because what the neighbors saw is, well, it's pretty damning. They lay out this very specific timeline of events. They see Kurt go in, they see him come out, and then they see him fiddle with something in the trunk of his car right before Kim goes inside. I mean, the timing is just unbelievably suspicious. It looks for all the world like he got himself out of the way and sent her in there alone.
And the case against Kurt gets even stronger. Investigators start sweeping the house, and down in the basement, they find all the stuff you need to make a bomb. Wires, gunpowder, fuses. The theory forms almost instantly, and it's chilling. The bomb wasn't brought to the house. It was built right there, on site, by someone who had plenty of access and plenty of time.
So at this point, what would you think? Everything is pointing to one person. Kurt was the last one to see her alive, he's the only one who survived, and now you have neighbors placing him in this really weird sequence of events right before the blast. For Detective Shepard, it's a no-brainer. Kurt Simon is suspect number one.
And here's the biggest problem for the investigators. Kurt's story has this massive hole in it. He's insisting he was still on the stairs, just heading out, when the house exploded. But you've got multiple witnesses who say no, he was all the way back at his car. And then, the nail in the coffin. When police ask him to take a lie detector test, he refuses. But just when you think this is an open and shut case, things start to get complicated. As detectives dig deeper into Chem's life, they realize the story isn't nearly that simple. That circle of people who might have wanted her hurt, well, it's about to get a whole lot bigger. Slowly but surely, the whole case against Kurt just starts to fall apart. First off, all their friends swear the couple was totally happy, totally excited about their future. A search of his car's trunk turns out absolutely nothing. And here's the big one. Kurt was in Iowa all week, which gives him a rock-solid alibi for when that bomb was probably being put together. Then, investigators learn two really key details. A spare house key had just vanished, and there was a hole in the back door screen. Suddenly, it feels like almost anyone could have gotten inside. Okay, so with Kurt looking less and less likely, detectives have to turn to a whole new list of suspects. Turns out, Chem had two exes, Dale and Todd, and she was constantly fighting with both of them over money and custody. There was also an ex-coworker who had actually threatened her. And get this, her own estranged mother, Cricket, absolutely hated Kurt. The interview with Chem's mom is just bizarre. Instead of grieving for her daughter, Cricket is furious. But she's not mad at the killer or at the police for not having answers. Nope. She's mad that Chem hadn't made her the beneficiary on a life insurance policy. Her behavior is so cold, so strange, that she lands herself right on the suspect list. So now the case is just a total mess of motives and alibis with no clear path forward. The police are basically spinning their wheels. But the breakthrough they need, it's not going to come from an interrogation room. It's going to come from the science, from the tiny, twisted metal fragments of the bomb itself. Federal bomb experts from the ATF start piecing together all the evidence, and they come to one huge conclusion. This wasn't a bomb set off by a timer or a remote control.
The autopsy showed damage to Chem's right hand. She had picked something up. It was a motion-activated bomb designed to go off the second it was disturbed. This one discovery changes literally everything. Think about it. The killer didn't have to be hiding in the bushes waiting to push a button. They could have planted that bomb hours or even days before Kim and Kurt ever pulled into the driveway. All those alibis for the night of the murder, suddenly they're completely worthless. This new information sends the police right back to square one. But now they have a much better question to ask. They're not asking who was around at 10:30 p.m. on Saturday anymore. Now they're asking who was seen hanging around Chem's house over the entire weekend. So they start re-canvassing the whole neighborhood, talking to every single person all over again. This entire investigation had been totally consumed by the actions of adults, right? Their anger, their greed, their lies. But the key to cracking this whole thing wide open was hiding in plain sight. It was locked away in the memory of a child who saw something and didn't realize how important it was. Until now.
So, as an officer is re-interviewing the neighbors, he's talking to a family that lives next door. And their young daughter just casually mentioned something. She tells the officer she saw a man leaving Kim's house on Saturday morning. It wasn't Kurt. It was a man she actually recognized, someone she'd seen around there before.
Her testimony allows the police to piece together the killer's movements, and it is just chillingly calm. He shows up that morning and uses that stolen key to let himself in. He goes down to the basement, finishes putting the bomb together, then he just walks upstairs and places this deadly package in the foyer, right where he knows Chem is going to find it. And on his way out, and this is just staggering arrogance, he even waves to the little girl playing next door. The man she saw was Dale Fostick, Kim's ex-boyfriend, and the father of her 1-year-old son. He was such a familiar face in that neighborhood, just strolling into her house whenever he felt like it, that no one else would have even thought twice about seeing him there. No one except a child who remembered a simple, ordinary moment that would turn out to be the key to everything. His motive? It was a textbook case of possessive rage. He couldn't handle that Chem was happy with someone else, and he was absolutely consumed by the idea of another man, Kurt, adopting his son. He actually used the technical skills he learned from his hobby of building model airplanes to construct the bomb. His downfall was the very thing that made him feel untouchable, his absolute, entitled certainty that he belonged there. After forensic work connected him directly to fragments from the bomb, Dale Fostick was arrested, tried, and found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 61 years in prison. He would only serve 14 of those years before dying of a sudden illness behind bars. So in the end, the killer wasn't some mysterious stranger, and it wasn't the grieving fiancé. It was a man who smiled and waved at a little girl just moments after setting a deadly trap for the mother of his own child. It just leaves you with this chilling question, doesn't it? How often is the most dangerous person in the room the one that everyone thinks they already know?